I just came back about a week and a half ago from the Camino de Santiago, which is a pilgrimage route in Spain. Just to give you a little bit of background on what the Camino is, after Jesus Christ passed away, he had 12 disciples, 12 students, and each of them decided to go to a separate corner of the world where they would spread his teachings of love and brotherhood. So at that time, the world, as they knew it, did not involve the Americas. So it was Europe, Africa, India. St. Thomas came to South India to spread Christianity. And St. James decided to go to Finisterre, which was considered the end of the world. It's where the general populace believed the world ended. So he spent his life there teaching the values of Christ. And when he felt like he was done with his work, he went back to Israel. And when he passed away, the king of Israel said that he was against what Christ was teaching. So he said that this man cannot be buried. I will not allow it. So his disciples came and they stole St. James's body and they put it in a boat and they were trying to find a place to bury him. Well, there was a thunderstorm and the thunderstorm washed the boat onto the shore of Spain, back to Spain. And they found a place in the woods and they buried his body. About 100 years later, there was a shepherd. And the shepherd saw a star in the sky and he thought it was very, very different. He thought the star was telling him something. So he followed the star and the star led him to the body of St. James. When he found the body, he told the local priest and the priest realized it was St. James. So he told the king. And at that time, there was a war going on between I think it was between the Moors and the Christians. But when the king got the news, immediately after that, they also won the war. So he decided that St. James is sacred for the kingdom, so he made them the patron saint of the kingdom. So they made him the patron saint, and after that happened, for many, many years, anytime somebody committed a crime, if they felt guilty of something, if they were looking for peace, priests from around Europe would recommend going to St. James. And St. James's burial site, which was built over with the church. And what was interesting is that during St. James's life, nobody really knew who he was. But they say that his death had a much larger presence than his life, and that he was very closely associated with Christ. So people said that if you didn't have a chance to see Christ, if you saw St. James, you were equally blessed. And if you made it to his grave, you would be washed of all your sins. So it's similar to the yatra that we do for the Ganga. You know, if you want to wash away your sins, you go to the Ganga. But the destination is generally an excuse for the pilgrimage, is I think what we all know. So I decided to walk it 10 years ago. Actually, I was studying in Spain, and a good friend of mine recommended this pilgrimage. And I was interested, but I didn't have time. And so like all things in life, it was, I think, a great lesson in patience, because I think until you're ready to understand what something's meant to give you, you're not meant to embark on it. So I had the chance to go, and I walked with some really good friends, and we walked for about 26 days. For 1 month, more or less, we were walking. The journey was 600 kilometers. It's interesting to note that 600 kilometers in a car is a 7-hour journey. And it's a 26-day journey walking. So that in itself, I think, just gives you a sense of just how quickly, you know, the car represents our life today, I think. And it was such a blessing to be able to take that much time out and to be able to walk. And that was also another lesson in patience, because when you're walking, you don't have to make an effort to understand everything around you. It just naturally you're able to absorb it. You're able to pull it without any effort. So Jayeshwar is always talking about effortlessness. So I was thinking about him a lot during the walk, because the first 3 days, you know, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go. My intention is, you know, restore balance, internal peace, surrender, love, all these things. You know, I had gone obviously with ideas, reflection. In the 9 years that I've been in India, I haven't really had a chance to just take time away from everything and to just reflect. So that was also part of my intention. But the first 2 days of walking was very much a physical experience. You know, you're getting used to this backpack and walking on asphalt and just your body getting used to it. So you're getting over the physical layers. By the third or fourth day, you're past it. Your body's used to it, and then the walking feels very natural. And then you start to realize that you can make the effort to try to do something, even internally, even if it's a good intention, but it's still an effort. You're still saying, okay, I'm going to do this. So as I was walking, I could naturally feel the layers shedding, you know, and it had nothing, it wasn't like I decided today I'm going to make peace with this and it's going to disappear. And just walking and letting go of everything, really letting go of everything. You could just feel nature doing its thing. And so I've been sharing with whoever's been asking that I think I learned 4 really big lessons in the walk. And one was patience in everything. You know, if you're going to walk 600 kilometers, or if you're going to dedicate your life to service, or if you're going to do anything that you're meant to do, it doesn't happen in one day or 1 month even. It happens over time. So when we accept that and we take it as it comes and we know our end destination, but that's the only thing we know, I think it makes it much easier to continue forward. And then also faith. I think the moment I decided in my heart that I was going to walk it, I left India running before this trip because I was working on something. I was working until the last minute. I was literally running. I had no time to plan. Even there, I had 1 day before we started the walk. I got some, you know, whatever I had to get, my bag and socks and shoes. So when I started, I really didn't know fully what I was getting. I knew what I was getting into, but other than that, I didn't know what I was getting into. And so in my heart, I had decided I'm going to do this walk, and whatever comes will come. And it was amazing. Just with that faith, every day, anytime I felt myself coming down, feeling a little bit low, something would happen to recharge me, to rejuvenate me. Anytime it seemed like something could go wrong, it never did. And anytime, you know, I thought of something genuinely, purely from my heart, it sort of just came. It just came. And it was really amazing. It's the power of faith in anything. So I think the first day, I remember walking, the plan was to walk about 18 kilometers to keep it short for the first day so that the body had a little bit of time to get used to it. So on the 17th kilometer, we sat down, we had, I think, some fruit or something, and internally I was like, gosh, 1 more kilometer to walk. And then we realized that the place that we were going to stay was full. And the closest place was some 7 kilometers. Nobody could actually tell us if it was 7 or 8 or 10 or 3. So we're like, oh, but the average was coming out to 7. So physically, I was done. But mentally, we're like, okay, we have to keep going. So we got up, and we were walking. And the 3rd kilometer, it was the middle of the day. It was hot. And 2 old men were sitting on the bench. And so they saw us, and they were like in Spanish, you know, it's so hot, chalo, chalo, come have a seat. Just like, you know, an Indian dada that you would see here. And they insisted 2 or 3 times. So we went, and we sat with them. And for half an hour, we talked about politics and, you know, and religion, and then they were telling me about farming and cows and I don't know, just anything and everything. But when we sat down with them, their energy, their encouragement, their support was all it took to be able to finish that day. You know, and I think that was the beginning. Almost every day there's a story like that. But that one really stood out to me because it was so funny. I could feel sort of my mind saying, okay, we're ready to give up, and they showed up. And so I was saying the power of faith. And my favorite example of faith that I found along the way, everywhere there were spiders, spider webs, everywhere we were walking. And so the question naturally arose, we were trying to figure out how a spider builds its home. And so we were trying to observe, we couldn't figure it out. And finally, we looked it up to see what the process is. And it's amazing. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but a spider first releases 1 thread of silk, and it waits for the wind to blow. And when the wind blows, it sticks to something. And if it sticks to something, it'll walk on the line again, strengthen it, and then it'll build its house. So the spider has complete faith on nature, has complete faith that the wind will blow. If it doesn't blow, it doesn't get to eat, and it has no protection. And that silk comes from its body, its protein. So it's letting go of its strength to build a house. So I was just thinking that this small, teeny tiny creature, you never think about how much it's giving, you know, it's just amazing. But I think after that, every time I saw a spider, it was just reinforcing that wisdom, that you just have to have faith in life. So as soon as you arrive wherever you are, everyone is extremely kind. Like, everyone is really supportive of anyone doing this pilgrimage. So you just have this great, great deal of gratitude for whatever it is, whether it's a cold sandwich or a banana or a handful of nuts, like whatever it is, you're just, and it's not like a mental gratitude. It's really genuinely a gratitude of just being able to fill your stomach, being able to lay down. I mean, I'm extremely clean. I'm very particular about certain things. So sleeping on a bed where somebody's sleeping on it, you have 365 different people sleeping on the same bed throughout the year. You can imagine. But when you get there, you don't care. You just put your sheet down and you just lay down. And to be able to rest your feet, so that ritual, that 1 hour, as soon as you arrive, you get there and you wash your clothes, you wash your one pair of clothes. And it's also, even though you're tired, there's such a joy in being able to wash it. And then you go out, you find your meal, and then that's it. You're not tired. After that 1 hour of resting, it's all you need to rejuvenate. Everyone thinks, okay, even people, when people start walking, everyone's like, okay, after 20, 30 kilometers, your body must be just completely wiped out. But you're not. It's almost like that walking just rejuvenates you even more, that you have even more energy by the end of the day. So just so much gratitude. And it was amazing while we were walking how many stories of people just coming out of nowhere to sort of help us with something or to offer us something. So one of my favorite instances was we were walking. We had started later that day, and we had actually stopped somewhere. We met some stranger, so we went and we sat with them for like an hour and a half. So by the time we continued on the journey, we still had 10 kilometers to walk, and the sun was already sort of starting to set. So to get in at 9 o'clock, guaranteed that we wouldn't find a place to sleep. So as we were walking, there was a lady coming in her car, and she stopped, and she said, I recommend that you guys, 2 kilometers ahead, there's a house, and it's a beautiful house. Make sure you stop there. So we were like, okay, and then she just left. And when we got to the house, there was this German couple who retired. They had done the pilgrimage, they retired, and they decided that they were going to spend the rest of their life helping other pilgrims. So they bought this house, and downstairs is where they live, and upstairs is they created a space for pilgrims. And it's very similar to the spirit of Seva Cafe. People could leave whatever they wanted to if they had money to give, and if they didn't, it's okay too. They had a kitchen with all the food, because as soon as you arrive, the last thing you would do is leave and go grocery shopping. Like, you would rather just have something to eat and then, walk around. So they had a fully stocked kitchen, really clean house, and it felt like home. And I can't imagine any bigger gift than arriving at a place that feels like home after you've been walking all day. And it was really nice. They weren't home when we arrived. Their neighbors were watching over the house. The neighbors showed us around. She said, make yourself feel at home, do whatever you want. They didn't know who we are, where we came from, nothing. And then at night, the couple arrived. They came upstairs to make sure our feet were okay. They asked if they could do anything for us. And I think it was just such a blessing. And it was such a shock. You don't expect it. So, it's just that kindness. It was really amazing. And as you're walking, you realize that, there's thousands and thousands of people who have done this walk before you, and thousands of people who will do it after you. So even though you've never met them and you never will, you're connected. And a lot of the spirit of the pilgrimage is that, when you're walking and any two people pass each other up, nobody will pass you before saying buen camino, which means good journey, have a safe journey. So there's a sense of family. Even though you don't actually, even with the friends I was walking with, we barely talk to each other. You're just with yourself for most of the walk. But there's this sense of shared experience, this connectivity that has nothing to do with language. And so there's this compassion for each other. Everyone's sort of hurting somewhere. Everyone's a little bit tired. If there's a shortage of beds, everybody always tries to find a way to make sure everybody has a place to sleep. And I was just thinking how beautiful it would be if we realized that, in life, we're all pilgrims. So we're all on the same journey. Fine, the Camino is the Camino. But, all of us are sort of heading in the same direction and doing similar things, going through similar pains. And so if it's possible to transfer that spirit that comes so naturally on this pilgrimage into our life, and to just wish everybody a buen camino all of the time, I was just thinking it would be an amazing, amazing practice. I think on the 3rd or 4th day, we were walking, and a stick is really important when you're walking. So especially when it's raining, because the mud can get a little bit difficult, and so the stick is really powerful. So we were looking around. They were selling sticks, but it felt really weird to buy a stick. So we were walking, and on the 3rd day, we were walking through someone's neighborhood. And in front of someone's house, they had left all their garbage in the front of the house. And so there were these 2 perfect sticks in their garbage. And so we're like, is it okay if we take them? When we looked around, and it was obviously their garbage. Like, there's no mistaking it. So we took the 2 sticks, fixed it up, and we went and we started walking. And really soon after that, it started pouring. And it was the only day while we were walking that it rained. So those sticks were definitely meant for us. And if we wouldn't have had them, we would have been able to climb up, because it was a steep hill. But then I was thinking a little bit later that, maybe they didn't throw it away. Maybe it was actually for something else, and maybe we took the sticks, So I was just thinking how funny it would be if he came out, or she came out saying, uh-oh, where did these sticks go? And they would have no idea that we were surviving because of their sticks, So then it also got me thinking about, we have so many things, So many things, so many more things than we ever need. And whether we mean to or not, we just have an ownership over it. But when there's a sense of sharing and flowing and letting things come and go, and knowing that if something goes, it's because somebody else really needed it more than you did, and that it's their lifeline for that time period, it really put a big smile on my face. So I promised myself, if anything ever goes missing, I will assume that it went into the right hands for the right reasons. So Janmashtami came during the walk. It also happened to be my birthday that day. So I decided I would fast the entire day, and my friends really wanted to do something for my birthday. So I said, okay, and since we're walking, they were gonna fast with me. So since we're walking, we'll do a dinner in the evening. And that was the plan. And the person's house that we were in, they were lovely, lovely. And she had offered to make us breakfast. So we said, no, we're gonna leave early and head out. So then before we even left the room and to leave the house, we decided that we would just keep one lemon for some energy in our water, and an emergency fruit if anybody was feeling a little bit faint. But we didn't have either. So as we were exiting, she's like, okay, well, at least have some fresh lemons and fresh oranges from my backyard. So she comes and she gives us the lemons and the fruits. And then we start walking. And I just remember, just being so aware of how much we were receiving that day. And we're always receiving. It wasn't anything special about that day, but I think my awareness was just higher because of also the fasting. I also wanted to be more mindful, so I was just being aware of every step I was taking. And along the way, the first thing we did was we met this very old man who was extremely happy. And he comes through and he's like, today I'm gonna give you a gift. He's like, I'm gonna tell you a shortcut. So that you don't have to, there's a detour that's better than when you're going to go straight, because you'll have to come back. So he tells us the secret, and he saves us like a half an hour in the walking. And then we get to this place where you can take two paths. You can either go to the beach or you can go to the mountain. So we decided to go to the beach. And I remember just going, we sat in meditation, and then every day whenever there was water, we would swim, because it helped relieve the aching, and we never got blisters on our feet. And I remember just thinking, standing in the ocean, that the ocean is massaging my feet. We woke up with the sunrise. We continued walking. I was always looking for a path along the coast. And that day, there was this teeny, teeny, tiny path just at the very edge of the coast on the rocks. So we had to climb a little bit, but then we were able to follow the coast. And then we got into the town where we were going to be staying. And there was a guy downstairs playing music for like 3 hours while we were resting. And then we came out, and in Spain, nobody's vegetarian. It's very difficult to find vegetarian food. So we're like, okay, whatever we find, whatever, we'll make a feast out of it. So it's this teeny tiny fisherman village that we were at. We turn into this gully, and we passed the first restaurant, the second one, without even asking. And we just randomly turn into the third one, and we asked the waiter, do you know anywhere we can find some vegetarian food? And he's like, oh, you mean like this? And he had a menu on the wall that said vegetarian menu of the day. And it was so shocking, because even in big cities, you cannot find vegetarian food. And we were just like, this is unbelievable. So just had this really amazing meal. And it was just such a day of like, just realizing how much we're continuously receiving, and just the abundance that we have. And I think often we take for granted how all of the emotional baggage we carry, however small or however big it is, how much it affects what we can do in our lives. And obviously, when you're not doing anything but walking, you can observe how it has an impact on your walking. And I was just shocked, if somebody said something to me and even a little part of it was offensive, I could suddenly see, if I accepted it, how much it could affect me, So to be able to just see how those teeny tiny interactions, how sensitive and aware we have to be to never accept when somebody puts something negative towards us, to never accept it. To forgive them and not accept it, and whenever it's something positive, to share it. And these are things we all know. So while I was walking, it wasn't anything brand new that I realized. No newfound knowledge came my way. But I think all the things I've known at an intellectual level, even things I know from experience, I was able to deepen each and every one of those. And I think in all of our lives, we're just going to continue deepening that practice. But it's just really, I think, really, really powerful. So I promised myself that wherever it's not necessary, just don't accept any of that baggage, you know what I mean? And that was obviously at the emotional level. At the physical level, it was really fun. So we tried to carry as little as we could. I had 5 kilos in my bag. So there was 2 pairs of clothes, a pair of shoes to change into when I arrived to wherever we were, toothbrush, a harmonica to play a little bit of music, and a notebook. And that was it. And some soap to wash our clothes, and shampoo that was also washing soap. And it was amazing to use every single thing in my bag. I didn't have a single thing in there that I did not use every day. So when I arrived to wherever I was, I pulled out my sleeping bag and put it on the bed and pulled out the clothes I was going to wear, and the other pair was drying, and my brush, and their bag was empty. There was nothing inside, and it was just a great feeling. I think, we always have one or two more things that we never ever need. It's just safety or it's just whatever. But it was such a feeling of freedom to only have as much as I needed and nothing more. So simplicity, so important. There's so much joy in simple living, and I think in our community we talk a lot about the joys of simple living, but to experience it, there was so much joy in doing the laundry and so much joy in grocery shopping for the next day's lunch, and you look forward to it. It was never, it was never work, or I don't know. It's just a beautiful life. And I would say probably the most important lesson I learned is how important nature is. Walking inside nature, you understand your true nature. There were days when we were walking past factories. One day in particular, I remember we were walking past this industrial belt, and it was just tons of factories and smoke, and it was horrible, horrible, horrible. And by the 6th hour, you just don't want to walk anymore. And it was necessary, because you realize that in so many ways, that's what we're doing to our world, And when you're in that environment, it's so much harder. You have to make so much more of an effort to connect within, you know what I mean, to be at peace. But then when you're standing there next to the mountain or in front of the ocean or in the hills, you feel God, you feel God's presence, and it's just so much easier. And it's a constant reminder, so grounding and so humbling. So the walk, you generally find these concrete posts maybe every 3 or 4 kilometers. And you can see the stones where people have just been putting stones on top to leave behind a layer. The shell is a symbol of the Camino, because they say when St. James's body was found, it was covered in shells. And so a lot of people, after they arrive to Santiago, take a shell back to say that we've been there. So it's just a symbol of the walk. And so my favorite thing about the Camino were the arrows and the fact that everybody said buen camino to each other. I just loved it. So the first 2 days, I think most of my time and reflection was really about the guy who was painting the arrows. I was just so grateful to him, because it was amazing. He just knew exactly where to put the arrow so that you wouldn't miss it. Sometimes you're walking through this is still obvious, but sometimes you're walking through craziness, and he just knew exactly where to put it so that you knew what you were looking for. And I think one of my favorite things about the Camino was that we all knew where we were going, everybody who was walking the pilgrimage. And because of that, we could see the arrows. A lot of times these paths would overlap with everyday life, and so many people would pass it and never even notice the arrow. So I just like thinking that if we're clear in our lives about what we're doing and where we're heading, the signs are always there to guide us along. And sometimes because there's lots of construction going on, so sometimes the arrows disappear or a house comes up, so then people would try to help out, and so you would find things like this or with rocks along the way to just show you where you need to go. And this was also interesting. This is from the first day. And so the lady in the hostel said, yeah, you'll find the shells on the road. We were in Santander, which is the 6th largest city in Spain. So she didn't tell us which way to go or anything, so we're like, what? And then we started walking, and one of us saw the shell on the ground, and you just wouldn't see it. It was just amazing. So I just loved the subtlety of how they marked the entire Camino. When we would arrive at the albergues, the hostels, the first rule was everybody had to take off their shoes, because naturally if you're walking 20 kilometers, it does not smell very good, so I loved it. So everybody would be barefoot inside. It was good. This is an example of one of the hostels, so you can get an idea. There was a couple who had walked, there's 6 or 7 different caminos. So they had walked all 7, they decided to dedicate their life to this pilgrimage. So they take care of this hostel, and in the morning, they make a huge breakfast for everybody. And everybody sits together and they eat together, so it was really nice. And then if you arrive and the hostel's not open, then all the pilgrims just put their backpacks in order. And it's so nice, the organization, so as soon as whoever arrives is there, whoever the first person's missing, somebody will go and find them and say that you need to go. So there was this sense of respect for each other. Nobody was trying to get in front of anybody. It just is a real sense of respect for the order of things and how much effort I guess somebody had put into getting there first. But sometimes we didn't find places to sleep. So this was on a bench outside of a park.
Is that you?
Yeah, that's me. It's a horrible picture, but this is the house of the German couple. So the downstairs is where they lived, and the upstairs they had given to all the people who walked through. And then we thought we'd share a little bit of the Manav Sadhna spirit, so we left a little thank you outside and then left. So this is Spain, and the one in the yellow is the route that we walked. The one in the green is, no, sorry, the one in the red is the one that actually Guri is walking right now, that orange one, the Frances. And that's the most popular one. And the one in the north was along the coast. But there's all of these different routes, and people sometimes walk from like Czech Republic, which is some, I think, 11,000 kilometers away, and like, it's just amazing, all the way from Russia. And there's just all these stories of people coming from all parts of the world to do this Camino. So there were a lot of things like this. This was left outside of one of the gates, and it was just fruit for whoever was walking the pilgrimage. Somebody would leave it in the morning, and it was for whoever wanted to take it. It was just a gift. So we saw fruit like this. There was a place where they had coffee out, and it was hot coffee and hot tea, and you could leave whatever you wanted. You could just take a cup and go. So it was just really nice. There were a few places like this. And then we thought we would add a little bit of something wherever we were walking. So this was one of the stones we left behind. People would leave messages for other people to encourage them to keep walking. We ate a lot of blackberries because they were everywhere. So it was just really amazing. And so on the first 2 days we were walking, the first day we were completely on asphalt. And the second day was asphalt and a little bit of like hilly terrain. But I love the ocean, and my intention for doing the walk was to be in the middle of nature. And I really, really wanted to be close to the ocean. So I remember on the third day, we were walking and we could see the ocean, but it was still really far away. So I just remember thinking that, I really want to be close to the ocean. So that night, wherever we were staying, we asked a lady, and she's like, oh, there's a route, but it's still inland. You're not going to enjoy it. So the next day when we were walking, the route was taking us inwards, but we decided to go towards the ocean. So we walked, and we found a lady, and we asked her, can you help us try to get close to the coast? So she showed us a way. It still wasn't touching the coast. And then we were walking, and this man was running, and he just stops, and he's like, are you pilgrims? And we're like, yeah. He's like, I'm going to tell you a better way to get to where you're going. So he's like, everybody generally walks down the road, but you just take the stairs and go down. And he's like, it's a very steep path down, but then he's like, it's completely flat, and completely along the ocean. So we walked, I think, 15 kilometers on the beach to get to our destination that day. And these are just some of the places that we were able to go to. I think we had meditated in that space. Beautiful. A lot of but everywhere we walked, it was like this, in tiny beaches, and nobody would be there, completely empty. Oh, I got cut off, but it's haystacks. There's a lot of eucalyptus forest everywhere we were going. And they're also, during the day, we were generally walking in villages and in farmland, so there weren't many people. But in the evenings, generally, we would end up in a town or a city. So a lot of the towns or the cities look like this. And this was next to the spider. This was my other favorite teacher along the way. Every morning, so in the beginning, we started walking around 5:30, and we realized it's really too early, so we started 6 and eventually ended up at 6:30. So the first hour, we would walk in silence, and it's always really sacred, right, to walk when the world is still sleeping. So these guys would be out everywhere, and they carry their homes wherever they are. So I think it was just a constant reminder to me that this has to be more than just 26 days of walking, this idea of really being at home wherever you are, and also just living with sort of the bare necessities. But, this is interesting. So they have, part of the culture in northern Spain is they all have these teeny tiny things where they dry vegetables and fruit so it can keep them. So they have it for the whole year, because actually the last part of the area we were walking in, it's one of the poorest areas of Spain. So they don't have a lot of money, but they dry a lot of corn, and they dry a lot of dry fruits, and then it lasts them throughout the year. So this is usually the facility for laundry. Everywhere we went, this is usually what we washed our clothes in. And there were just a lot of beautiful crosses everywhere that we were going. And then there were dogs. So because it's such a rural area and a farming area, every family, every house had a dog. And I remember thinking at one point, when we would go, the dogs would actually get really violent. They would start barking, and it's because they were constantly tied up. So there was constant resistance. And the resistance got me thinking about our own pulling and pushing. I think resistance only comes when there's a great sense of ego. And so when you try to control it, you're either pulling or you're pushing, but when you let go and you accept it, there's no resistance. And so every time I saw the dog barking, I was thinking it's a constant reminder to me just how much we have to be aware that our ego isn't really like controlling what we're doing, because I think that's where a lot of our own personal resistance comes from, and a lot of our own personal friction. And this was really nice. So they have these public fountains everywhere you go. So every 2 or 3 kilometers, there's always a place to get water. And the thing that was really amazing is if we didn't find a fountain, we would just walk into any restaurant without buying anything. And they would always give us water. And I was just thinking, in the US, generally you can't really just walk into a restaurant and ask them to fill a bottle of water. They'll be like, oh, they'll just look at you. They just probably won't do it, I don't know. And in India too, people won't generally entertain that, you know? In houses they would for sure, but in restaurants, here nobody ever cared. We just walk in, they'd fill you a bottle of water, they would give you if you needed anything. We had a lot of instances where like, we would go into a restaurant and ask for something, and they would give us the ingredient without asking us for any money or trying to sell us anything, you know? Bread and garlic and tomatoes and basil, and at one point olive oil. So it was just a really nice spirit. And this is Santiago, the destination of the yatra. On this church, so the tradition is to walk in from the front, and then after everybody arrives, they have a sermon where the priest sort of blesses everybody that's come in that day, and he gives everybody a lot of encouragement. So we went in twice. And the first day I wasn't very moved by the sermon, but the second day I was really touched by the way the priest spoke to everybody. And he was just saying that, you know, this isn't the beginning, or this isn't the end, it's just the beginning. And after walking for so many days, you know that life can be led in a different way. And I think, you know, when I was hearing that, a lot of the walking experience is a lot of the experience I've had while I've been here. So it wasn't like a brand new experience. A lot of the learning, a lot of the growing, it's what's happening constantly in this environment where we are. But just to know that, like, it is true, you know, it's life changes, and you just have to accept it and to keep changing with it, and to never go back. You know, like every time you step forward, you just have to remember you've gone for it. So whatever that may bring, however hard it may be, sometimes you just have to keep going forward. So I just really liked it. And on the back side of the church, they have the Alpha and the Omega symbols. So Alpha and Omega generally mean beginning and end. But in the back side of the church, it's opposite. So when you exit, it's the Omega sign first, then the Alpha. Just to say that there is no beginning and there is no end. So don't fool yourselves. That's good. And this is St. James. I think that's the end of the pictures. Yeah. Like, you really just have to let the layers shed. And the moment you stop trying to build is when the truth, whatever it is, can start to come out. So I mean, I think that was really important to understand that, and then to carry it into practice are two really different things, right? So there's so many things I was able to really understand deeply, and then to bring it here and to make sure that I continue it as a way of life is a whole different thing. So that in itself, I think, is going to be a huge challenge. But I think there are a lot of things that would come up, and you know, like if a negative thought came up, or if a reflection came up, if a sense of guilt came up, if fear came up, like I was saying, I think I had the ability to see the effect of it on the walking itself. And so that was a constant reminder to me just how important it is not to hold on to it. So many, many times these things arose. You know, I would have a recollection, or I would have something that would be negative, or maybe somewhere where I was struggling. But as these thoughts arose, like, it wasn't so much about suppressing them, but just understanding them and then not necessarily lingering on it, because I think you could just feel the weight of it. So there were definitely a lot of moments throughout the walk where things like that were coming up. But nothing was so overcoming that I couldn't continue forward. I was sharing, I think, at the Wednesday meditation, there was one point where I was walking and we were going through really thick forest. So it was just really like everything was in your face, and we're walking, and it was towards the very end of a really long walk that day. And for that, I don't know if it was 20 minutes or half an hour, I just suddenly, like, I just went to this really different zone, and I had all these people just passing through, and like a sense of how many people have passed through my life who are no longer in it, not for any bad or good reason, but just because maybe just of the nature of my life, I've had a lot of people pass through it. And it just, for a second, it was a really, really lonely feeling, really lonely, extremely. And then I remember getting down to the end of the walk, and like I just stopped for a second. And whatever it was, for whatever reason, the way we were walking and where we were walking, it had everything to do with also the thoughts that were arising. So I remember it was really intense, you know, and I could feel sort of overcome with some emotion. But then as soon as we got down and I sort of took a deep breath, it was fine and everything passed, you know. But that was something that I think for me that stood out in the walk in terms of sort of like an intense moment. So I'll be really honest, I thought I would go and reflect, and I actually did not reflect at all. I ended up very much just enjoying where I was. So, but I can share sort of what, I mean, over the 9 years I've been here, I came in as an Intercore Fellow and I was partnered with Manav Sadhna and Gramshree, and I've been with Manav Sadhna since I've come to India, more or less. So in the 9 years I've had the opportunity to work with Manav Sadhna and Gramshree, and a large reason for why I decided to stay was the spirit of the community and the work. It's not work, it's a way of life. So I think being in a space where you can nurture that, for me, was really inspiring. And I remember that after my first year of being in Kutch, no part of me felt ready to leave. I felt like I had just found something, so I decided I would stay. And I kept extending it little by little, and then I decided that this is also ridiculous. Let me just stay, and when it's time to leave, I'll just leave. So, and in that time period, I've had some really, really, really amazing teachers and mentors. So I've learned so much, and I continue to learn so much, and it's why I'm here. In the last 5 years, I used to live within urban in Bay, and when you come out of their house, there's an entire neighborhood, a slum neighborhood. And just along the slum neighborhood is about 18 houses of people that were living on the roadside, and they didn't really have a house. A lot of them begged, some of them stole, and we would often pass them when we were going home. So we knew them really well, and whenever there was any sort of rain relief, they would generally be the community we brought into the ashram. So I just remember walking one day, and one of the girls was telling me, she's like, I really want to learn, and she was 14. And then at that moment she said, Didi, if you don't teach me now, my parents are going to marry me off next year. And for some reason that just stuck with me, and I was just thinking, my God, you know, no child should ever have to beg for education, and she's going to get married next year, like we have to do something. So I remember going home and just talking to Jayesh Bhai, and we were thinking about what we could do. So we decided to start a small program to just feed the kids and to teach them some basic values, cutting your nails and saying pratna. And when we started it, the idea was to do something small. But within the first month of working with these kids, there's just so much potential in these children because they're so smart that it just became a full-time activity. So it's been an amazing journey to work with them for the last 5 years. And if I have any great guru in my life, I mean, I've had many, but they would probably be the greatest, because I think every day they teach me humility and patience and resilience and all the rest of it. So I would love for you guys to come to the school if anyone's interested. It's in Ganesh Nagar, just opposite Ranip. So if you guys want, you can just let me know. Some of you guys have come to the school and have taught, so